Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we're here to do the recording. I think this is the first time we've done it on this computer, so everything should be fine. I didn't even think about that, but Code and I spent an excessive amount of time testing our volume levels to make sure the music is right, as well as his voice and my voice and other things. So if this
Yeah.
sucks, too bad. Code, how are you, man? We haven't talked in a long time. Maybe we
Good.
have,
Yeah.
but we're going to pretend that we haven't talked in a long time because we're on camera.
Yeah, I know. We have been, but not like. Yeah, not like this. But yeah, I think the last time there was a recording was the K-Migs interview, and I know he sounded kind of faint. So hopefully I sound louder.
That's right. If
This is an
anybody,
important. This is an important video.
yeah, if there was anybody to have quieter than we wanted them, it's K-Mig, so it's okay.
Yeah, that's true.
So let's tell the people what we're doing. If you couldn't tell by the title of the thing here and the title of the video, probably, we are doing a mock draft, but um, you are the one who really has been pushing this and really excited for this, and I'd love for you to kind of talk about what we based our picks off of, because we obviously, the NFL draft hasn't happened yet sitting here recording this, but do
Yeah.
you want to give that kind of background and then we'll kind of get right into it?
Yeah. So this is our. I know we did like a way too early mock draft during the season, which was last year.
With Rick, yeah.
And then this year,
I forgot.
I think Chad Reuter at NFL.com did like a 5-round mock, and it was like it's kind of outdated now because of just I guess way things have moved. But we just based our mock off of that. So the players have like landing spots, and that's how we're gonna mock. Also, go Sixers.
Go Sixers. They sucked in game one. But it's okay. So yeah, that's what we based off the land. We use the landing spots as a big piece to this as well, which I think is important to call out because we obviously looked at player talent from what we thought, but really those landing spots had a big influence on who was going where and what we should do. So additionally, to add some more fun to it, we did pick by pick, and then we also did trades. So every single pick we have a trade as well. On what we think they could do or should do or whatever the right word is or phrases are. And just to make sure we weren't being stupid with it, each one of these trades had to be considered fair on keep, trade, cut. This way it's not like oh yeah, this makes sense, but then in reality nobody else thinks that way. So let's get it started. I picked odd, you picked even, and so pick 101 as everybody expects and probably will happen in most Superflex leagues. Caleb Williams goes 101 to the C-words. I can't imagine a world where he doesn't go 101 in Superflex leagues. I think you can make the argument in one QB leagues that it should be Marvin Harrison Jr., but that's not the league we play in. So Caleb Williams 101, no brainer. End of the conversation. He was mocked at 101 in the NFL draft. We have him here. I don't think there's much more to talk about there. So let's talk about the trade that we came up with. It was 101 and 211 to the Liquidators for 103 and 107. I think that the C words are still on the downside of the rebuild, whereas the Liquidators with all their picks could start to go on the upswing. And I think the way to get that upswing is with a solid, supposedly incredible quarterback. You go down 2 spots. I think Rick would be happy going down 2, so getting one of those top 3 guys. Also picking up 107 for 211. I really do like this trade for both sides, but I'm biased because I came up with it. But I do like it a lot. I think it makes sense for both the teams as well.
Yeah, I feel like the 101 might net like a larger package, but then again, we never really know because like in other leagues, people might sell out for the 101.
Yeah.
I think like last year, people were selling, or they were like buying the 101 to take Bijan, but they were like throwing ridiculous packages out to get him because everyone thought he was the next coming of Christ or whatever. So like it's just, I mean, this is probably it's a fair keep trade cut deal, but I feel like Rick could probably get a little more for the 101 if he was selling it.
Yeah. And I do think that the tier break for this year is 107, maybe 108, just based off of if the Cowboys draft a running back, I think they get pushed up more than anything else would. So I like that this still gives Rick 2 in the top, in that tier break.
Yeah, in the tier. I
Yeah,
see.
yeah. So I think it's pretty fair, but it's very, to your point, the 101 cost last year is nuts for Bijan. Wouldn't be surprised if it went for higher than this for Caleb, but that remains to be seen.
Yeah, it really depends on what you think. I mean, if he did a deal like this and went down to like 103, he could either get one of the other QBs that weren't taken,
Right.
or just go with like the best receiver in the class. If Harrison doesn't go 102, the weird leverage thing is that the Liquidators own the 102 as
That's
well,
right.
so it's
Yeah.
like he giving the division opponent like a leg up. So we'll
Yeah.
see if it
Yeah.
actually happens.
And I think the top three is a big tier break, right? Isn't it? I think it's Caleb, MHJ, and then Neighbors. I think are like 1, 2, 3. But
Yeah.
does anybody make a big splash for the quarterback? Does that change things? Like it's a mess.
It really depends on the landing spots for sure. So.
All right, well, let's move on to 102. Speaking of being owned by the Liquidators, your pick here at 102, you went with Jaden Daniels going to the Liquidators. Do you remember who you went to in the mock that we were using?
Yeah. Yeah, so in the mock, he got picked second by the Commanders.
Yep.
And actually now there's like this 50-50 toss-up of do they take Drake May, do they take Daniels, do they like trade back? Like nobody knows, and that's what I love about this particular year is that like the first like top 12 picks, there could be trades like everywhere because it's like the Cardinals don't need. I mean, they could just grab a wide receiver, but like they could trade down, get more capital. The Bears could even trade down because they only have like 4 picks in the draft. They won't trade down from the 101, but anyway, that's just besides the point. Yeah, they picked Daniels here because he gets taken, paired up in the Commanders' offense with Cliff Kingsbury there now, and I mean they have some weapons still, and I think it's a good landing spot. It's better than the Patriots. That's kind of like the big selling point because the Patriots quarterback's definitely not going to be as great for fantasy. They'll still be a good like maybe super flex starter occasionally, but yeah, I think the landing spot here and his rushing upside. That's why he went 102.
And then let's look at the trade you came up with. So you said 102 for 104, and Chris Godwin kind of being the cherry on top to move up 2 spots for Win Like Flynn.
Yeah, I liked this for Flynn because I feel like he would like to get like a quarterback in this draft particularly. And Godwin is one of those like sexy pieces that like he's like a consistent like wide receiver too. And if he's moving back into the slot, the Liquidators could always use more wide receivers, especially with Rashee Rice's shenanigans going on. And like going down to 104 doesn't hurt the Liquidators as much because he still gets a quality piece there too.
Yeah, you're still getting a top piece, and you're getting Godwin's on a decent contract from what I remember as well.
Probably yeah, he's like on a one year for $43. I think it's not that expensive.
Yeah, let me see if I can quickly pull up the cap sheet in time. And again, if you're coming out of this rebuild, which not that they're soaring out of a rebuild right with all these picks, but this is you have the ability to do this. I'm looking at the wrong team here. Chris Godwin, 1 year, $43. That's easily re-signable. That's easily extendable. The Bucs offense looked good. A good piece to pick up to go back 2 spots and then still be ready and locked and loaded. 103 on the clock now. Liquidators again, and we did when we were picking back. I'm sure you did too. When we were picking back and forth. Oh boy, I unplugged my sound. As we're picking back and forth, we're consistently thinking of who's been taken already, right? So like I knew that the Liquidators picked a quarterback here at 102 in this theory. So when at 103, I went with Marvin Harrison Jr. I feel like people are starting to overthink it. I think he's the better between him and Neighbors, and people are trying to do this or that. But I think he goes 103 to the Liquidators here. They add a wide receiver to their roster and continue that young core of receivers that they have. Also other receivers on the Liquidators currently right now. Marvin Mims, Jonathan Mingo, Rashee Rice, Michael Pittman Jr., Drake London. So clearly Chase likes his younger wide receivers. Marvin Harrison Jr. slides right in there. But if he were to trade 103, we said 103 and 311 for Jordan Love and 406. Dan has gone on the record many, many times saying he'll trade his entire team for Marvin Harrison. Jordan Love is your entire team, Dan. So the question becomes, is it worth it to trade Jordan Love on that great contract that he's on potentially? But Dan's kind of going into this rebuild mode as well. Possibly he's kind of on that edge whether or not he should this or should that. I think making a trade like this commits him to maybe more of that rebuild. Sell what other pieces you can for picks and all those things, and get someone that is going to be a steady wide receiver for forever. It's also selling. I think this is going to be, I don't want to say it, but this could probably be the highest Jordan Love goes. You know, if he starts off shaky next year, then this might be the highest his price ever is. I think he is a top 10 dynasty quarterback, but if he comes out and looks like he did in the middle of the season next year, his price could plummet. Whereas 103, Marvin Harrison Jr., I don't think their price goes anywhere anytime soon. So that's what we came up with. What are your thoughts on that one? I mean, I think it makes trade cuts at its fair. Jordan Love 103. Yeah, just kickers on it to even it out.
I know a lot of I heard something. I can't remember where it was, but they were talking about how keep trade cut is just like the stock market, and it just kind of tells you like all of that. It's not, and we don't like take all of that as like just
gospel,
the end all be all. I guess it's like just for giving ideas and everything, and like because I feel like in this particular league, Jordan Love, he's on a 2-year deal for like $6 and like $12 or whatever. It's like sure he might hold out, but like that deal is so insanely cheap for like a top 10 dynasty quarterback.
Yeah.
Like I could even see Love netting a bigger price than this because there's no guarantee that Caleb Williams is good. There's no guarantee Jay Daniels is good. I mean, I feel like Marv and Neighbors are like probably like solid bets to be consistently good wide receivers in the league, but it's like we saw it happen to Bryce Young. They didn't put anybody around him, and he went from like, oh, he's the best quarterback prospect to all of a sudden, C.J. Stroud is actually that guy. So Love at least has like a couple years in the league where he's like actually gotten to develop and then came out and played pretty well. So I'd hold a little more stock in Love. So if I were doing this trade, I would want the Love side.
Me too, for the record. I don't want to do this because the last time I said this, bad things happened. So I'm sorry for the past, Flynn. I'm sorry for maybe now, Dan. Is Jordan Love the best quarterback contract in the league? I think the answer is probably. It's between him and Stroud. Jordan Love 2 years, 12 and 21. Stroud 4 years, 26, 34, 48, 72. Nobody else comes close to me in terms of the best quarterback contracts.
It's either you have a legit QB1 and you're paying him, or you have Jordan Love.
Yeah,
because
and Stroud.
I think all of the other QB1s in the league, except for him or Love and Stroud, have like really like sturdy contracts. So there's no like chance of them holding out or anything for more money. So they
Trevor
should
Lawrence paid $212 this year. Herbert $204 this year. Burrow $151. Mahomes $145, Hurts $138, Allen $164, Kyler Murray $170. Like those guys are some cheap boys, I'll tell you that. So
and if Russell Wilson in this veteran auction, if he goes for like really cheap, he might hold out if he plays well. I know everyone loves to hate on Russell Wilson, but he's like still like a QB2 at least.
Yeah, I think so too. We'll see. I think Russ is a good buy low. 104, you went with Drake May going to win like Flynn here, making a selection, trying to shore up the quarterback room. Was that your thought process here with that? Obviously, Flynn's got a couple quarterbacks, Levis, Jones, and Young, but nobody's really hit yet. So you're thinking here, just try to get one steady one and figure out the rest from there?
Yeah, so in the mock, I think Drake May went to the Patriots, so it's not the greatest landing spot, but like he's still got talent. And I know he's like a little raw, I guess. But, Flynn at 104, it's like, is he going to take a receiver or is he going to take a quarterback and just kind of stockpile the QBs? Because he does have a couple of good young ones. And if he takes May ends up hitting, then it's like, okay, you've got, 3 quality, quote-unquote, quarterbacks that are under the age of like 25. So it's just good building blocks. I feel like he could have taken Neighbors here, but I feel like it might have been a little too rich.
With the trade, though, at 104, we went with 104 and Miles Sanders for a slide back to 111, picking up T. Higgins from Project Badass as well. Mm-hmm. What was your thought process in this framework?
I think because Project, he's just total rebuild kind of, and I think in this particular trade, getting rid of Sanders basically just frees up cap for him to be able to take on Higgins, and then all of a sudden you're looking at Flynn as maybe a potential contender. Depending on how well Higgins does with the Bengals now that he's like disgruntled or whatever on that franchise tag. But yeah, it wasn't too bad of a trade back. But like I said, if Flynn wasn't going to take Neighbors or May and he wanted to trade back, that's an option he could do.
All right, moving on to 105. Went with J.J. McCarthy to the Webster Tigers. Kind of similar to what we just talked about with Flynn. They don't know. The Webster Tigers quarterback room is interesting. On paper, it should be solid, but it is not.
Uh,
Pulling it up to make sure I got it right here. I don't want to misquote it, but we've got Hendon Hooker, Jake Hader, Trevor Lawrence, Jared Hall, Stetson Bennett, Sam Howell. So, in theory, with how it looked last year, Lawrence and Howell should have been enough or fine for the next couple of years. But now that there's ambiguity at that QB2 spot, yeah, Russ Wilson's available in the veteran auction, but I think the Tigers need to take another quarterback here. I think with the other three quarterbacks going at 1, 2, and 4, that kind of puts the Tigers in a weird spot. So they end up going with J.J. McCarthy here at 105.
For context, in the mock draft, the Broncos traded up. I think it was the Broncos. It might have been the Broncos or Vikings, but either or.
Yeah.
Regardless,
I think it was
there's
the
a trade.
Broncos.
Yeah, if there's a trade up and the Broncos snag McCarthy, he's naturally going to be drafted higher in Superflex leagues, unless people are just really convicted on those receivers.
Yeah. In terms of the trade, though, we said 105 for a 2025 first and Matt Stafford from the inaugural. So we've seen Cam Hood make some crazy moves in the
Draft last year.
Yeah, last year with some just absolute insanity in terms of what he was doing. The Tigers need a quarterback too. I feel like the Tigers are in a window just from how weak that division is. I think Morgan has run his team well, and so this is a move that could work for him. He gets a 2025 first, which is probably late with the inaugurals, but you get Matt Stafford, who's on a cheaper deal, assuming that there's some cash added in as well. So I do like this trade a lot for both sides, really. But I really do like it for Morgan too, because I think Stafford is a very solid, strong QB2, and he needs to just have. He's been playing that shuffle game with receivers. He's been trying to play the what quarterback should I start in Superflex. I think this gives the stability that he needs. You can start Matthew Stafford at QB2 every single week and be happy. I think that's what he needs right here, and so that's why this trade happened in my head.
Yeah, no, I like it.
Moving on to 106, let's talk about who we went with here, and finally the other receiver off the board, Malik Neighbors, also to the Webster Tigers, by the way. So Morgan with the back-to-backs. This is technically Dan Flash's pick that he earned or traded for. So grabs Neighbors here at 106, and that's kind of a no-brainer, I think. If Malik Neighbors makes it to 106 in any league, that's almost you pick right here, right?
Yeah, and he went to the Giants, I think. So, like, there's, like, okay, maybe he becomes OBJ because there's, like, nobody in that receiving core that would be able to challenge this guy. So he immediately steps into the role as the guy. Could probably even go higher, honestly. Like, if Neighbors ends up going to the Giants in the NFL draft and then Rick is like, hey, I might want some of him and some other picks, they could maybe trade back or figure something out. But, yeah, 106 for Neighbors is probably, like, the lowest he would actually go.
Yeah. And I was thinking about taking him at 105 there, but I just with what the quarterback room looked like for the Tigers, I think these guys back to back. If the draft actually falls like this, I think Morgan smashes.
Oh, he's super
Neighbors.
happy. Yeah.
In terms of the trade, though, we said 106. We just sent it to Brown out for 112 and Tony Pollard, adding a little bit a different piece to the Tigers to kind of get their running back room in shape as well. And only sliding back 6 picks to pick up a starting running back for the Titans, who are going to be a run-heavy team. When you look at the running back room for the Tigers, Charbonnet, Brian Robinson, Sean Tucker, Evan Hull, and Tajee Spears, there's nothing there. So you
Just a lot of young guys.
Yeah, and you're handcuffing Pollard with Spears too, which is it's pretty nice as well. Whether you do that, whether you realize that intentionally or not. Yeah. All right, moving to 107. It's Rumbadinze going to the Liquidators. Again, same thought process I mentioned before. He likes his young receivers. You went ahead and grabbed one earlier. Grab another one. Just kind of keep stockpiling all these young weapons. I think with this, assuming he picks, what do we say, Marvin Harrison Jr. 103, you're locked. You've got your flex spots. You've got time. You can play matchups. You can play it however you want. You've got trade pieces. Really like Adunza going to Liquidators here at 107. And when it came to the trade, we just said a 2025 first and third. So if Chase wanted to try to move back a bit more and make his rebuild a bit longer. If he isn't really a super fan of anybody there at 107, he can go ahead and bet that the Tigers will stay in the extra pick bracket as opposed to make a playoff push and maybe move up in the future year, get a third round pick on top of it. So maybe not the sexiest trade that we've put here before, but one that could make sense depending on how Chase is feeling about his team's future, one that could make sense if Morgan's trying to make a push for now versus later. You know, you get a little bit of both here with the Liquidators and Tigers trade.
It's true to his name, the Liquidators. I was wondering if he was going to change it to the Consolidators after he trades up, or just makes more trades to get in, because he has so much capital.
Yeah.
Like, he already owns half the draft, but if he really wanted to, he could get, like, the entire draft, because he has, like, all the picks.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if it almost gets to the point that it's to your detriment after a point, because in other leagues that I'm in, when I have that many picks, I'm like, this could come back to bite me in the ass. Like, it's almost too much, but maybe they just become trade chips. Maybe they're good, cheap assets.
Yeah, you're gonna have to make cuts at some point, and then also the cap too, because all that cap space is it's wasted.
Yeah, so we'll see what they end up doing, but Liquidators could have the most fun off season, I think, is a fair thing to say.
Yeah.
Moving to 108, Xavier Worthy going to Justin's Deli, another receiver again and again and again off the board, and Xavier Worthy, Texas Longhorns, going to the Deli here for you, Code.
Yeah, in the mock, they had the Kansas City Chiefs picking him, so that's why he jumped up to 108. I don't think he's, like, normally in that 108 to 109 range. He's more like a late second, or not late second, early second or whatever.
Right.
Just because, like, everyone saw the speed, and everyone's like, okay, he's another John Ross, but it's like you pair it with Mahomes, it's like, okay, maybe he could be an actual fantasy. So, yeah, that's what matters.
And not only that, but I think that's kind of what happened to Sky Moore, where the Chiefs took him and he flew up the draft boards. I don't think Xavier Worthy and Sky Moore are similar in that sense. You know what I mean? If the Chiefs really do grab him as early as they're going to, they have a spot they need to fill. His combine performance, I think it's a different story. So Xavier Worthy at 108, if he goes to the Chiefs, does make sense for the Deli here. Deli's weapons in the receiver department, by the way. Flipping over to that. Not the shiniest. DJ Moore, George Pickens, Khalil Shakir, and CeeDee Lamb. So Rashad Bateman as well. No real strong wide receiver 3. I mean, I'm not a Pickens guy. I'm not a Shakir guy. Maybe Allen is. But I think you take Xavier Worthy and you can plug him in at wide receiver 3 for the rest of the year if you wanted to. It also gives him a really strong lineup, a really strong young lineup. All the other positions are accounted for him, right? He's got Stroud and Herbert. He's got Mark Andrews. He's got Bijan and Ken Walker. Like, all of his pieces are figured out except for maybe that wide receiver and flex spot, and Xavier Worthy plugs right in there.
Yeah.
In terms of the trade, 108 for Deebo Samuel, 310 and some cash, you said. You didn't say how much cash necessarily, but that was the idea, was the implications would send Deebo Samuel, cover part of that contract in 310 to get 108. And that could work, right? So you talk about getting that third wide receiver spot. Deebo is not a wide receiver 3, but plugging him into your wide receiver 3 spot's huge. Implications move for some young, cheap player that they know that I need since I'm broke. Is that kind of where your thought process came from, or what else were you thinking here?
In my mind, so I thought that immediately once he took Xavier Worthy, I'm thinking, like, okay, like, Blind would want to get that stack with Mahomes. And then also, too, Allen's always talked about this stars and studs mentality. Deebo Samuel's a star in the league when he, like, has the ball in his hands.
Yep.
So I know that, like, fantasy-wise, sometimes he has off games, but there's so many mouths to feed in that offense. But, I mean, if Ayuk ends up getting traded or something, then all of a sudden Deebo's, like, you know, climbing up the wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1 threshold area. Depending on, you know, how the season plays out. But I could see this being a move that makes sense for both sides. Because Blind gets a little younger, Allen gets a star, and just everyone's happy.
Yeah, and I save some money, God forbid. Cap isn't real. It feels real, though, I'll tell you what. Jesus Christ. All right, 109 is Jonathan Brooks. So mocked to the Cowboys in the early second round, I think it is, or mid-second round.
No, they took first. They
take when the first one traded up.
Yeah, they just taken at their pick.
Yeah. So Jonathan Brooks, like I said at the very beginning of this, I think that if whatever running back the Cowboys pick gets pushed up into the first round of rookie drafts, plain and simple, and that was Jonathan Brooks in this draft. I think Jonathan Brooks is the best running back in this class. So Winlike Flynn takes him here at number 9. Additionally, Winlike Flynn needs some pieces here, right? A lot of the younger running backs he has on his roster haven't hit. Tank Bigsby and Kendre Miller were some of his picks last year. He's paying Najee Harris $130 this year, $187 next year. Woof. Algier at 17, Sanders at 57. There is a clear need for a running back here for Flynn. Jonathan Brooks should fill that spot. But if the trade were to happen, just a simple one and done, 109 for a 2025 first. You haven't seen this trade. This is the one I came up with a few minutes ago, your code. So we get a live reaction from you. But Flynn, maybe thinking he's still in rebuild mode, maybe thinking he still needs more pieces. Allen's team is so volatile. That division's still open. But, if you told me, no joke, if you told me Allen makes it to wins the division and is in the same place he was last year in the sense that he's competing in the grand prize bracket, I'd say, yeah, sounds about right. You tell me Allen makes it to the toilet bowl and has a complete collapse of a season. It's hard to believe with Stroud and Herbert, but maybe?
Yeah.
You tell me he's in the extra pick bracket, so he's at 5 or 6? Yeah, sounds about right. So this could be a roll of the dice for Flynn, basically saying, I know I need more time. Let me go ahead and take what I think is going to be an earlier pick next year instead.
But if he ends up doing a trade like this, he then has like 3 firsts in 2025, I think.
Yep.
And that's the year where there's division realignment, so he will set himself
he will be
up
free.
For that future pretty well.
So every night when we put our son to bed, we put him in this sleep sack, right? Like it's like this little almost like a prison sack, and he can't move his arms. His arms are stuck up here because he's comfortable like this instead of being swaddled, and it zips up to his neck. He can't move his hands. He can't move his feet. And every single morning when I take him out of it, I tell him, "You're free, Flynn. You are almost free from the division of death. You've got this much more to go." And I think
one more year.
Yeah, one more year. I think that Flynn, a move like this, again, kind of puts Flynn in that position that Chase is in, where he's got all this draft capital next year, but it's not overloaded, like to the point that, we could, you guys trade embargoed me. If we trade embargoed Chase, I could see a world where he starts to panic. I think that this puts Flynn in a really nice position where he's got 3 first-round picks next year, has plenty of draft capital, and he still has a good core. And maybe it just gets him more time to get things together. I don't know. We'll see. Moving on to 110 here, back to you, Code. Brian Thomas Jr., who's the controversialist wide receiver, I feel like, coming out of this draft, where some people are saying he's great, other people are saying he's very okay, but you're saying Flynn takes him here at 110.
Yeah, the knocks on him are that he can only run like 3 routes, but his combine testing was great. He's productive at LSU alongside Neighbors. I think he's just the best player available at this point. And I mean, just stacking wide receivers, stacking valuable assets. There was thought of Bowers, but he doesn't really need a tight end when he's paying Pitts the blood money.
He's got Kyle Pitts, yeah. He needs a tight end.
So.
Yeah, hopefully Kyle Pitts, hopefully this is the year for Flynn, or for Pitts really to turn it on. If he doesn't do it this year, it's over. But we did talk whether it was going to be Bowers or something like that, and we'll see if Bowers gets picked in the top 10 after we got so much hate for it last time. Or the first round, I should say. But Brian Thomas Jr., and a very similar trade to the one we just talked about. You're saying Flynn 110 for back-to-back in the second round from the Liquidators, 207, 208. This was the only one that, from my perspective, didn't look fair, but I didn't check this on Keep Trade Cut. This came out as fair on Keep Trade Cut for these 2 later second-round picks for it.
Yeah, I think it's just because this class is so deep. Flynn could get 2, pretty good shots, with the receivers in this class, and then, throw on a running back maybe, throw on a Penix if he falls late, maybe some, I feel like there's just so many options because it's so deep that he doesn't have to take his 110 here if he's not so sure on the guys around this area, because like you said, the tier break is at the 107 spot, so
yeah.
You can probably get 2 almost equally similar prospects in terms of talent if he likes those landing spots more. So just trade back and just accumulate your assets.
Let's move to 111 here with our next pick. I went Bo Nix to Project Badass. This is a little bit of my bias coming out since you guys are in multiple leagues with me, but I believe in fixed quarterback and then figure out the rest. I don't think Gardner Minshew is a quarterback two. I don't think that's the future. Baker Mayfield, I like the contract that Project came up with for him. I don't know how sustainable he is. I think that Baker would be a much better QB2 than a QB1. And so I think Bo Nix is the best quarterback that's available here in the draft. I forget who he fucking went mock to. I feel bad that I'm asking you every single time, but
I don't remember either, to be honest. So
I can't remember. And if I try to pull it up here, it's gonna show my search history. What was the? I'm just kidding. Let me see if I can find it. 5 round 2024 NFL. That was a lot easier. So yeah, there was the Broncos that traded up for him. Let me search. That's the wrong thing. I do not want to watch the video. Thank you though.
Okay, so if the Broncos did end up trading for him, that means that the Vikings made the
Broncos moved up for J.J. McCarthy. Bo Nix went to the Vikings at pick 23. That's right. Okay. You're partnering him with. I knew there was some logic to this trade. I swear. You're partnering him with Justin Jefferson to say he's going to be the guy. Sam Darnold probably isn't the long-term guy. I think that Darnold is a good backup, so he's got someone to learn from at least a little bit. So yeah, a bit of a weird one, but I think that before you do anything, you've got to fix your quarterback room, and Bo Nix is the one to hopefully do that with for Project. For a trade though, similar thought process. Need to fix your quarterback spot. Not that Geno Smith is a fucking messiah, because he's not, but you take a second and Geno Smith for 111, you get a quarterback, you can start to build from there, and you get a second round pick out of it still, and it came out as even. So that was my thought process in terms of trying to move off 111. So
yeah, I think Bo Nix is a pretty good pick for him here. I know that like the value might not be there, but like you look at Project's roster, it's like complete clean slate. You know, he took over the orphan, and there's really nothing there except for some bad contracts.
So need to do something. Moving on to 112 here, you went with Ladd McConkey, a bit of a commit to the bid for K. Miggs and his wide receivers, but someone that you think could be a good spot for him here at 112.
Yeah, he gets picked up by the Titans, so he's going to be the new Kyle Phillips. So K-Miggs will draft him and then put him on the block every other week. But no, seriously, I think McConkey's one of the better receivers in the class. Probably not going to be picked in the first round, but K-Miggs will probably like him because he's white.
Yeah, true. Racist. For the trade, you went for just a nice, simple one here. 112 and 312 gets 206 and Jalen Warren. K. Miggs likes his running backs. We've seen that. His running back room has consistently been really strong. This kind of just gives it a little bit more depth. He's got I-Chain there. He's got Breece Hall there. He's got ETN there. He's got Saquon there. He's got Tony Pollard there. Just kind of gives him a little bit more depth at one of those more volatile positions. And he's really only sliding back 6 spots to do that, it feels like. Yeah, the third, but who knows with third round picks. So
yeah, they're all dart throws anyways. And Warren got that new contract, so he's like got like a 3-year deal for like $24 a piece. So if Najee doesn't play his way into another contract and Warren is the guy there, then it could be very beneficial for him.
Yeah. All right, getting to the end here. Don't forget about pick 1.13 from the extra pick bracket, which is won by Morgan? I don't remember.
Yes.
Yeah, won by Morgan. So Michael Penix, another quarterback. I feel like all I did was just say different quarterbacks here.
There's so many of them.
Yeah, we've seen teams double dip at the position to get it right. We saw the Commanders do it with Cousins and
RG3, right?
And RG3. We've seen the Packers did it last year with Kraft and Musgrave. We've seen the Mark Andrews and Hayden Hurst to the Ravens. So I'm Morgan kind of emulates that again. Not really sure what's going on at quarterback 2. There's nothing there. What did we say he took at 107? He took I forget, but we said he took another quarterback. J.J. McCarthy, I think it was, right, at 105?
McCarthy 105 and Neighbors 106.
Yeah, so he picks McCarthy at 105. Double dip at the position, Morgan. Another quarterback, 5 years. He gets drafted, I think, at 20-something to the Raiders in the mock. Let me make sure I'm not crazy.
It was definitely the Raiders.
I know. I remember it was the Raiders, but it wasn't 20. Now that I think, um,
Might have been like in the second, like
it was in the
the
second round. Yeah.
yeah.
The draft. I project the Raiders to send fourth and fifth round picks to Carolina, move up in the second to select Michael Penix. So, um, he is going to be a starting quarterback. So you're continuing to go ahead and double down at that position. If they both work out, great. Now you've actually got a QB3 because Sam Howell is probably maybe done for forever until he gets a shot. If one of them works out and the other one doesn't, great. Your quarterback 2 is set. You're fine. That was the thought process behind 113 for the Webster Tigers. And then for the trade, went with 113 and a 25 third to the Seawards to get James Cook. I think James Cook is a player that could be on the block for Rick. I think it's a longer rebuild for him. Rick has kind of said it's a longer rebuild, and running backs don't last for forever. I think James Cook could be a really good asset. We already talked about the running back room that's there for the Tigers right now with Charbonnet, Robinson, Tucker, Hall, and Spears. There's really not that much going on. This gets you an RB1 in a division that's kind of open for the taking, hence the trade here. You add in a little 20-25 third to sweeten the pot and make it happen. Everybody's happy, and the Seawards get a pick here at the end of the first round where they do something similar. So
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good trade actually. We'll see if Rick thinks he can at least make a splash in the auction because he has a lot of cap space, and then wants to get Mike Evans back. I don't know how much he's going to shell out for him.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, and we'll see. That does it for us. We tried to make sure that everybody was represented here in the trades as well. We realized that after 8 picks that it was pretty spread out. Only one team not represented the trades, by the way, Code. Sorry, it was you. I was debating between... I was looking at the different trade options there at 113, and I was like, well, you and Rick are the last two. But I saw the James Cook for 113, and I was like, I really like that. So you were the one who was unfortunately excluded from the trade fund. I apologize. But
maybe we'll make a splash in the actual draft. We'll see.
Yeah, that's what matters, right? It's if you win the actual draft, it doesn't matter what the mock draft says. So, but that does it. So, wanted to get out here and do this and have some type of content for you guys. Draft on Thursday, which is really exciting. I might try to do something here. We are going to do for those of you that weren't here last year, we're going to do the first round of the draft the same way that we did last year. So it's in the rule book. I think I called it a modified slow draft. Basically, we're going to be doing little mini interviews for each pick and playing highlights of the players and talking about it and talking through each team. I'll be talking to Chase a lot, I think, but it'll be fun. I think it added some more realism to our draft. So a little bit slower for the first round, but it was good getting to talk to people. Might try to tag in others that don't have any first round picks to try to talk to everybody as the draft is happening, but we'll kind of see since that's happening. That'll happen. So the draft is happening, and then on the 1st, everything should be settled, and we'll start the RFA stuff soon afterward. Still have some roster moves to be made by certain teams. Still have some teams we need to pay in for 25, but everything coming along pretty well now as we're kind of getting to the point that we actually have some football back here shortly. So that does it for us. Code, any final thoughts?
When will Brock Bowers be taken?
Yeah.
He wasn't in the first round.
He was in the first round. Liquidators have 201, 202, and 203 or some fucking ridiculous thing, don't they? I think the Liquidators would take him there.
Because I think in the mock he went to the Jets at 10
something
pair
like
with
that.
Rodgers, and that's actually a pretty nice landing spot, I think. But we'll see what actually happens in the draft. Because I think Titans were rumored to maybe like Bowers, and maybe even the Chargers. But Chargers, they have so many holes to fill.
Yeah, they do. I think so. Based off of our draft board. Chase has 201, 202, 204, 205. You have 203. I don't see a world where he gets past Chase. Chase is Dalton Schultz, the tight end. He also has Sam Laporta at tight end. He has Greg Dulcich at tight end. So he's got some good tight end pieces there, so he favors tight ends. You are a newly anointed tight end truther, from what I understand. But you've got Kmet, Kittle, Muth, but I don't see him falling all the way to something like 206. I think it would just be one of those, all right, I've got to pick the best player available, and that's him, I think. But we'll see. 202 is my prediction. I think Chase grabs him at 202.
202, there it is.
Yeah. All right, well, that's going to do it for us. Hope you guys have a great day. See you in a few weeks. Hope your teams get whoever you want them to get in the draft, except for you, Cam, and probably you as well, Rick.
Go
yeah.
Birds.
Go Birds. And go Sixers. God, we need a fucking... Philadelphia needs something. All right. You gentlemen have a good night.